Well, over the weekend, we saw yet another free agent pitcher sign with a new team, and it's Hyun-Jin Ryu, the Dodgers, formerly the Blue Jays, currently $80 million, 4 years. Boy, Scott Boras with his $1 billion haul over the winter. What a winter! What a Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever holiday he wants to celebrate. He's got plenty of money to do it with, right? Good morning, everybody. This is Arnie, and welcome to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports on this Monday before the holidays get here. And if you're celebrating Christmas this week, enjoy your time with your families and friends. And it's going to be one of those great time of years. And here it is. What are we going to, Lenny said it this morning, what are we going to talk about for free agency come January? Because all the kids have signed, right? Ryu goes over the weekend. Keuchel went earlier to the White Sox. You know, I've been talking about the White Sox for a while, and I've been, really pounding hard on the rookie players that they have. And now they go out and add a Dallas Keuchel to the mix. What a move that is. I mean, Lenny said it. I'm not trying to repeat Lenny's show, but he compared him to Mark Burley. Whether he's a Burley type or not, what he is similar to Burley is a veteran presence on that team. And it's going to be, I think, yet another reason why the White Sox are in the mix next year in 2020. So Keuchel's deal, 3 years, $55.5 million over those 3 years. He had a vesting option for the fourth year, which could take the contract value up to $74 million. Of course, earlier last week, the White Sox agreed to a deal on a one-year deal with Gio Gonzalez with a club option for 2021. Rick Hahn, he's wheeling and dealing in Chicago. They went after Zach Wheeler, didn't land him. He went to the Phillies. Hahn then pivoted, went and added both Gio and Keuchel to go with Lucas Giolito, Reynaldo Lopez, Dylan Cease, and Michael Kopech. So now he's got 6 starters in the mix. And don't forget Carlos Rodon, who's working his way back from Tommy John. Most likely, if he plays, it'll be later in the season. Keuchel, he's got the stuff. Guaranteed Field is a pitcher's park. 60.1% ground ball last year with the Braves. Now, when you also think about Keuchel and his 2.3-degree launch angle, that was the lowest in this group of starters in the major leagues last year. It really was. So here we go. Keuchel, 2015 American League Cy Young, 2017 World Series winner, 3.47 ERA in 12 career postseason games, and add him to the Chicago White Sox mix. Love it. Ryu's deal, I said 4 years, $80 million. He's the 32-year-old lefty. He finished second behind Jacob deGrom this past season in the Cy Young voting in the National League. He had a 2.32 ERA over 29 starts for the Dodgers. And when you think about what the Jays are doing in Toronto, north of the border. So first of all, Rio's contract is the third largest in total value in franchise history, behind Russell Martin's 5-year, $82 million pact in 2014, and Vernon Wells' 7-year, $126 million extension in 2006. Toronto also has a promising group of young pitchers coming along that Ryu will now spearhead as the ace of the staff, if you will. I like the move. Now, I saw some things on Twitter. Isn't it great how social media is just, oh, God, they're crazy, right? Ryu faced the Dodgers last year and did not fare well, faced the Yankees, rather, last year in the interleague series. And out in Los Angeles, the Yankees ate him alive. And I've been reading all this stuff on Twitter, how, welcome to the American League East, making fun of what is going to happen with Ryu once he gets acclimated to the American League East. I tell you, I think he's how can you judge just one start, right? I look at the body of work. He's been a really good pitcher Last year, for 4 months of the season, he was the Cy Young. When you add him to a group that includes Nate Pearson, Pearson's got the 75 rated fastball. He pitched at AAA Buffalo last year, went 3 starts, 18 innings, struck out 15, only a 0.83 whip, a 185 average. You got to figure that Pearson's going to be up with Toronto sooner than later. When you think about what they did defensively, they added Travis Shaw to a $4 million deal. Where will Travis Shaw play? It's only a 1-year contract. You know, Shaw's 29 years old, but the last 2 years, he has just mightily struggled. If you look at his numbers, 2019, he hit 157 with 7 homers across 86 games. You know, the Brewers shipped him back and forth between Milwaukee and San Antonio, their AAA squad. But Lenny mentioned it this morning. Do you think that the Blue Jays will DH Guerrero Jr. and let Shaw play third? I think a lot of that has to do with Shaw, because I can go ahead and tell you, if Shaw's hitting 157, not only is he not DHing, he's not playing third or anywhere else. So it's a pretty good, I think it's a good sign for $4 million 1 year. I mean, you're going to possibly lose that over a few lunches or dinners or trips, right, if you're a major league club. But Travis Shaw has got a lot of improving to do and a lot of proving to do before we can just coronate him as an everyday player in Toronto, in my opinion. Interesting to see what they do. At least you got to say this, with Rorik going to the Blue Jays, Ryu going to the Blue Jays, and, of course, adding Travis Shaw, the Blue Jays have definitely improved. It's just a matter of how much improvement have the Blue Jays shown now, and how will it translate in that ever-difficult American League East? Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the East, predicting the standings. I think you got to go number one. I got to go with the Yankees. The Garrett Cole signing, and you won 103 last year. I mean, to me, that's a no-brainer. Who comes in second? I got to go with the Rays. I think the Rays are the second-best club. I think they have the pitching. Now, there's talk about them possibly trading Charlie Morton. That'll be an interesting call to see if in fact, they do that. But I still think, irregardless, they have the horses to finish second in that division. And then there's third place. Well, fifth place is, I think, a cinch. It's going to be the Orioles. So he finishes third. Is it Toronto or is it Boston? And which club is better? And coming into the season, there are a lot of question marks in Beantown. And when I say question marks, not only is Chris Sale's elbow a question, their roster is a question. I keep reading how they're going to trade Mookie Betts and try to cut salary and this and that. I don't know what the Red Sox will eventually wind up doing with their 2020 roster. I do know what the Blue Jays are doing, and I know they've got an incredible young core. When you look at Bo Bichette, I mean, he's a top 10 MVP candidate. Vladdy Guerrero, another top 10 MVP candidate. And Biggio and Lourdes Gurriel and all of this young talent on the Blue Jays. I really think they're intriguing. Now, are they a playoff team in 2020? Probably not. Will they factor into who makes the playoffs? Probably so. Are they done? I have no idea. Here's an interesting trade. How about if the Yankees traded in the division? I don't know what the Blue Jays would offer. J. Happ to Toronto. Just saying. The Yankees are probably going to deal J. Happ before spring training. It's a matter of where does he go and who do they trade with? And, of course, the Yankees are talking Josh Hader. That's the latest. That's the greatest. And so we're going to talk trades a little bit this morning. Do the Yankees go out and actually pull the switch on Hader? The package I read about last night and getting ready for the show today included Andujar going to Milwaukee as the primary piece, and in return, the Yankees getting back Josh Hader. Now, Hader is interesting because of the years of control. It's either 3 or 4 years of control the Yankees would have over Josh Hader. Now, the concern has been, was he overused? I had him on my fantasy team last year. Heck, they only pitched him the first 4 months every third or fourth day. So I don't understand the overuse argument. I do know he was the number one relief pitcher in the National League. And can you imagine the Yankees' barrel of riches if they were to put Hader, especially, here's the thing I don't think people are talking about enough as we're looking at fantasy players for 2020, it's the new rule change. Relievers now have to pitch 3 outs. So you need a reliever on your team if you're a team that has fantasy players who are relievers who can go the 3-out rule. Hader can do it. Whether it's a save, whether it's a hold, he's going to get innings and he's going to get strikeouts. And the Yankees know it. Why doesn't anyone else try to get him? I don't know. I don't quite get it. The Yankees have a package I'm sure they could put together. Other teams with rich farm systems like Tampa, like the Chicago White Sox. I mean, these are teams that are rich. The Dodgers, that's the team, that's the enigma to me this offseason so far is the Dodgers. Who gave them Somonex, and when are they ever going to wake up from this hibernation? I think they should change their mascot to a bear. The California Bears are right down the road. The Bears are sleeping this winter. So are the Dodgers. They've made no substantial move. They've talked about it. Of course, they're still talking about Lindor. They're still talking about Clevenger. But they've done absolutely zero. Nothing. Kaput. And the Dodgers last year did not make the World Series. Frankly, I thought they looked not that good at the end of the year. You know, they roar out to this great start. Bellinger's hitting .455 and, oh my gosh, killing the league in April and May. And, of course, he cools off, and so do the Dodgers. I think they need to make some kind of move, and they've done absolutely nothing so far. Donaldson, where's he going to go? The things I'm reading this morning, the Twins, 4-year deal offered. The Nationals, 4-year deal offered. Do you get the sneaky suspicion Atlanta just is not interested in offering Josh Donaldson a 4-year pact? I do. I don't think Atlanta's going to offer him 4. Atlanta's been very, what's the word? Judicious. I like that word. Deliberate. Wary. We could go on. Of signing free agents to long-term contracts. And Donaldson, let's face it, he's had a history of injury. Now, last year played great. I'm sure at 32, if teams thought they could get that out of him for 4 years, it's a no-brainer. But how confident are you that you will have Josh Donaldson for 4 solid years? I'm not confident. And with Atlanta's history with free agents, they're not either. I don't see him going back to Atlanta. I see an Austin Riley-Camargo combination. The Braves would love for Riley to catch on, keep on like he started last year, not like he finished. Camargo, certainly an alternative at third. I think that's where they're going. I don't think they're going to invest the money, and I think then Donaldson winds up a National. Now, will the Braves regret that? Well, sure, if he plays 4 solid years for an arch rival in the division, they'll regret it. But what if he doesn't? And remember, he's 32 years old. Already, in my opinion, past his prime. Probably not a player that's going to play every day. He's going to get some time off, and that's based on all of the injury history. The Nationals have some players in the AAA system who can play third base. Look for them to probably sign him because they lost Rendon to California. But look for it not to be an Atlanta signing. Speaking of California, all these free agent pitchers. I mean, from Garrett Cole on down the list. And none of them sign with the Angels. So the Angels do not get that top flight pitcher. Are they now in the trade market? Of course, we're contemplating what ifs. But they got none of the starting pitchers that were free agents. They Keuchel, of course. They did sign Teheran. But really, do you consider Teheran a stud 1 or 2? Certainly not. He's at best a 3, probably a 4. An aside, I read this morning that right-hander Pierce Johnson is in agreement with the Padres on a 2-year, $5 million deal, 28 years old. He was absolutely dominant for the Hanshin Tigers in 2019, and now he returns to the major leagues, probably to pitch out of the bullpen for San Diego. That's breaking news this morning. So the Angels. I tell you, you read, I'm sure, the talk about Cespedes with the Mets going from a $29.5 million contract to just over $6 million this coming year. What a reduction in price. And now the question is, do the Mets keep him? Do the Mets trade him? Do the Mets cut him loose? For $6 million, this is my take. That is such an impact bat. If he plays 140 games for the Mets, then I'm all for keeping him and giving that bat a chance. For $6 million, you got to be kidding. So the Mets, I've read this morning, they're considering trading him. For what and for who? I guess you entertain any offer, sure. But when you think about an impact bat like Yoenis Cespedes, what he could mean to New York and only cost $6 million, I think you gotta let that plane fly. You gotta let it roll. You gotta give it a shot. I was reading this morning, going back to the Blue Jays and their investment in Hyun-Jin Ryu. They are risking $80 million on a 32-year-old pitcher who has reached 160 innings. How many times in the last 5 seasons? Hyun-Jin Ryu has thrown 160 innings only once in the last 5 seasons. And here Toronto is spending $20 million a year for a 32-year-old, oft-injured left-handed pitcher. I guess they're just saying, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our chances on his last season being more of what he's like, that he's over the injury bug, and we need that veteran presence in our starting rotation. There's no doubt on the talent of Ryu. There are questions about his health. And that's going to be the way it is as we go forward. Let's look at some more, what I'll call nuggets this morning. I told you about Pierce Johnson returning to San Diego. I want to give you a few of his stats, okay? He's 28 years old. Pierce Johnson was a prize prospect in the Cubs organization. So, Chappie, I know you know about this guy. But he moved overseas last winter, struggling between 2017 and 2018. But last year with Hanshin Tigers, wow, a 1.38 ERA, 91 strikeouts in 58 innings. So the Padres throw him into that bullpen, and the rich get richer. Now, I did note this for 2020 on Cespedes, getting back to him. His base salary will rise to $11 million if he isn't on the injured list to begin the season. So it goes from 6 to 11 if he's healthy on opening day. He's 34 years old. heel injuries in August and October of 2018, an ankle injury last May. He has managed a .282 average, a .525 slug, 26 home runs, 71 RBIs over 119 games between 2017 and 2018. Remember, last year he didn't play a lick. What do you think about the Tigers over the weekend signing both C.J. Cron and Jonathan Schoop? Cron signed a 1-year, $6.1 million contract on Saturday. He saw limited playing time over the second half of last season. He had thumb surgery this past October. He's 29 years old, should be ready for spring training, and is the leading candidate to take over at first base. Jonathan Schoop signed a 1-year, $6.1 million contract on Saturday as well. He hit .256 last year in limited time. 23 home runs in 2019. He's 28 years old. Again, he was not a full-time starter for the Twins last year and still hit 23 homers. So the 28-year-old will remain in the division. He's going to probably be the everyday second baseman. I tell you what I'll do. The Tigers aren't going to do anything this coming year standing-wise, playoff-wise. But I like the fact they're trying to compete. And the fan base has got to be encouraged. They're not spending a lot of money. These are not long-term contracts with Cron and Schoop. But they are an effort to be competitive, to keep the fan base intrigued, interested, if you will. We'll see how it goes for Detroit. I say kudos to the Tigers, and I wish more teams would go out and try to land players, sign players to these type of contracts. Even if you're not going anywhere, at least you're trying to remain somewhat competitive within your division as the season goes on. And I love it. I love it. Reading this morning about the Yankees and Hader, we'll see how interested are the Brewers in obtaining Andujar. Now, Andujar is not the most fluid of defenders. Is that a good way of saying it, guys? But the kid can hit a ton. And if Milwaukee can get him a position and let him play every day, he can hit 45 in Milwaukee. 45 homers. He can drive in 120. He can. And Milwaukee, to go with Yelich, it's got to be intriguing to him. I want to close the show today by talking about what in the world is going to happen with Frankie Lindor. Cleveland said, make us your best offer over the weekend, teams, so we can mull them over. We can decide, what are we going to do? Will he be the Tribe's opening day shortstop in 2020? Now, there's talk about Lindor and Betts both being traded. Cleveland needs a second baseman. Do they try to go and get Cesar Hernandez? Are they still talking to the Dodgers about trading Lindor there? The Reds were players, so we heard. Senzel would probably be in the deal if the Indians send Lindor down the road. He did play a full season. He's minor league-wise an infielder, converted to an outfielder last year. Now, the Tribe has a third baseman named Nolan Jones in their minor league system, who I watched last year play at the single-A, high-A level for Lynchburg. He was promoted to double-A before the end of the season. He's almost major league ready. The Tribe could always put Nolan Jones at third. So if they were to obtain a player from Cincinnati in the Senzel, Jonathan India mode, probably not to play third base. And of course, there's San Diego. Making the move today to pick up another arm in the bullpen. They've been mentioned, possibly moving Taylor Trammell, who they received as part of the 3-team Trevor Bauer deal last July. They also have prospects like Louis Patino, C.J. Abrams. They may not have, San Diego, enough major league talent ready to deal with Cleveland, but they certainly have a farm system that will be attractive in the trade market. So, does Lindor open? Here you go. Question. Does Lindor start the season in Cleveland or does he start somewhere else? I'm going to vote right now. I'm going to say he starts in Cleveland. I'm going to say they don't trade him. But during the season, teams who may be in need of a star shortstop, the price could only go up if you get into a playoff-driven, motivated team around the trade deadline. And maybe that's what Cleveland's looking for. We'll have to see. Just with no movement, no real discussion since Friday, I think he stays a Tribe member. I think he starts opening day with Cleveland as their shortstop. I guess the Dodgers are always a possibility, right? But it hasn't happened. The Dodgers haven't done anything this season, off-season rather. And then finally today I want to talk about David Price. Okay. Talk about Price going to the Blue Jays. Maybe so. How many sore-armed, oft-injured left-handed pitchers do the Blue Jays want to take a chance on? I mean, Ryu's already a risk. David Price stays hurt. Are you kidding me? I mean, I've had him in fantasy on my teams in different leagues for the last 2 years, and you're always gasping, hoping he makes it through the game. He's 34 years old. Now, he pitched for Toronto in 2015, and this is probably where it's coming from. He had a 2.30 ERA over 11 starts after the Tigers traded him to Toronto. And when he went there in 2015, remember, the Blue Jays won the American League East in 2015 after acquiring David Price. And that ended a postseason drought of some 20 years. After that season, that's when he signed the 7-year, $220 million with contract with Boston. He has 3 years and $96 million left on the contract. Boston would love to move him. My problem, if I'm Toronto, is injury, and injury. Keep your eye on that one. That could be yet another trade coming down the line. Now, let's assume the best for a moment. Let's say Ryu stays healthy and Price stays healthy all year, and Toronto gets both of these players. All of a sudden, you've got two quality lefties pitching in Toronto against American League East foes, the Yankees, the Rays, who they can go toe-to-toe with ones and twos, Ryu and Price. This is the great thing about baseball, isn't it? You just never know. Always something to think about, always something to talk about. That's what fantasy shows are about. That's why the hot stove is hot. So we're trying to get a show together tomorrow morning, trying to work with Kevin Hastings. Good morning, Kevin. Hopefully we can pull something together tomorrow morning and maybe do a dual show. Kevin, I will be back in touch with you. I've got some work to go do this morning, but this afternoon I'll be texting you, and I will let you know about time. And what I plan to do tomorrow, Kevin, is call you, get you on the phone, and let's do us a show. I've got a couple things to check out today work-wise and family-wise, but if all works out, that's what we'll try to do tomorrow on Christmas Eve. But I'll be in touch with you later today, Kevin. Great to be with you guys this morning. Thanks to all of you. Love you guys in the chat room. It's been a great morning. A lot of information to cover. We've covered it here on Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports.